and from Orchid Systems, and today I'm going to be running through some new Extender scripts that we are loading up to our website. But before I start, just a little bit of housekeeping. Currently you are all muted. If you do need to ask a question, if you wouldn't mind popping the question in the question box, and I will look at that from time to time. Orchid have been in business since 1993, developing add-on modules for Sage 300 or ACPAC. At this stage, we have over 5,000 companies running our modules, and on average, they're using 2 modules per site. All our solutions are developed in the Sage 300 SDK, and what that means for you and for your clients is learning our modules is easy to do. They look and feel like any other Sage 300 core module, and they support all the standard Sage 300 functionality like dump and load, like the tables being available and reporting, upgrading. Our modules have been OEM or Gold certified by Sage, and accordingly we have a very close working relationship with Sage's development team, which we think tells in the software we develop. At this stage, we have 13 modules falling into these 5 main categories. Under the collaboration and intelligence, we have document management link, notes, and info explorer. And we found in the past 6 months or so, more and more attention has been given to these modules, as it seems that more and more companies are working in distributed offices and needing more collaboration amongst the staff. The next category of modules we have is the automation and productivity. And here we have Process Scheduler and Report Runner, which allows you to schedule repetitive tasks overnight and indeed schedule and email reports overnight, freeing up valuable time during the day for your data entry and analysis of your data. The third category we have is the tailoring your system and integration. And we've also found a lot of demand for products in this area in the last 6 months. And in this side, we have Extender, which I'll be running through today, optional tables and data views, all which allow you to extend and store more information with your Sage 300 data for analysis and or integration purposes. We also have a number of modules which help you streamline financial processes, EFT processing, inter-entity transactions, and inter-entity trade. And in the operations management area, we have bin tracking and return materials authorizations. Here's just a quick screenshot showing the Sage 300 Classic Desktop. This is version 2018 with our modules activated. So with all our modules, you install them and activate them as you would a Sage 300 module. You activate them through activation services, and it supports dump and load and upgrade in a similar way as Sage 300. But today I'm going to be running through Extender, just a quick overview of Extender for those of you who haven't seen Extender before, and then I'll be going in more detail into the new scripts that we have loaded and are loading onto our website. So Extender is really useful for those customers who have integration requirements or of complicated or fairly complex sites and need additional ERP processing, or indeed simple sites, but they just need some automation of certain tasks. And typically, if these customizations are done outside the SDK, it is both costly and also quite awkward to upgrade when an upgrade comes, because the customization often needs to be redone or at least greatly modified to work with the new versions. Using Extender, what we have enabled is the ability to do customizations at the Sage 300 view level. You can also create screens in Extender, but the most important thing is your amended business processes sit at the view level. They're backed up with the database, and therefore your customizations are unlikely to be or won't be lost in terms of when you upgrade and or dump and load to go to a new server. But also these customizations, because they sit at the view level, It covers whether the database is being accessed either by a custom UI or by the standard VB UIs or the new web UIs. So whenever you need some form of customization on site, it's probably very cost effective to do it using Extender. This is a graphic which explains the different versions of Extender. Up at the top here, the orange boxes, using the Extender configurator version, you are able to configure point-and-click, no coding needed, for pre-packaged event types. And the 4 event types you can do is the ability to log a change, so you can log a field changing on any Sage 300 view or any third-party SDK 300 view. For example, when somebody changes the discount level on an OE order. You can also send an email when something changes. So when the user changes the discount level on the OE order, you can send an email alert to their manager. You can also create an information manager note, and you can trigger an external piece of code which might be something to do integration between 2 systems. For example, when they change the exchange rate, then update a web service with the newly amended exchange rate. So all of those 4 different event types can be done using the configurator version in the lowest module level, as it were, of configurator. The next level up is these green clouds refer to the ability to apply your own custom scripts to the Sage 300 views. So these scripts could do things like further automations. For example, when somebody enters a bill of materials item on the OE order and it doesn't exist in stock, then you can automatically assemble it. Or it could do some validation. So when somebody types in the state code, it could validate that is one of the 5 or 10 different states that are valid in your shipping areas. Or you could have a script to say, to apply some additional security. So if the user who signs on and opens the AR customer screen is Anne, then don't allow Anne to change the credit limit, make it read only. You can also create your own screens in the scripting language, and the scripting language we've enabled is Python, which is a very widely used language used in most universities as a teaching tool. About 80% of the websites have some element of Python in them. So lots and lots of resources who use Python. But the most important thing for us is you can apply it as a scripting language. So it doesn't need to be compiled when it goes on site. So that's why we can import the scripts into the database and back up the modifications with the database. But also it's open source. So we're able to add the Sage business objects into Python. And the third level up of Extender is the ability to create your own tables as if they were created through the SDK. These tables will dump and load and will be available in Crystal through the Sage 300 reporter object, just like the core modules are. And all of these changes that you're doing, albeit in the customizer, configurator, or developer edition, all these amendments happen at the Sage 300 view level. For example, if you validate that the credit limit field cannot be greater than 10,000, the validation is done when the AR customer view is read into memory. So whether the update to the customer is happening through a custom macro, through the standard import-export, through the new Sage web UIs, or through the VB UIs, this same logic will apply and won't need updating. So just one script gets written and is applied to the view and won't need updating when you upgrade. This is just another graphic showing the different versions. So the configurator version is the first one I was speaking to, which allows you the standard alerts and logging events. Customizer then allows you to apply on top your own custom scripts for additional automation, validation, or new screens. And developer is the ability to create tables in the Sage 300 database, company database. We also have the runtime license, which enables other ISVs to create modules using Extender, and in that case, only the runtime license is needed. So that's just a quick overview of Extender. But what I'm going to demonstrate and show today are the new scripts that we have written. There are some scripts which require just the Extender module, and some which require Extender and notes, and possibly document management link. So firstly, I'm going to show a script that is written to run around the OE order entry screen. And when you enter the customer number, or when you open an order where an existing order and the customer number is known, what the Extender script does is goes and calculates the total dollar value of sales for that customer and displays it in an information manager note. A second script also runs, which shows as you enter the items or as you activate an item line, it shows you the total quantity sold for that item, the total dollar value sold for that item to this particular customer, and calculates the average unit price of the quantity, well, the dollar value divided by the quantity. And the third script I'm going to show you around the order entry screen is the ability to, on an order which has an assigned, from which you've already created an invoice, it allows you to click the button which will run the nominated invoice report and store it away in the document management link folder, and a second button which would allow you to pick up that document, attach it to an email, and send it to the customer based on the customer's delivery method. After doing those ones, I'm going to show you a third script which runs around order entry, that whenever, and this just requires the Extender module, that whenever an order is first created, an email is sent to the customer, and the email address is taken from an optional field on the AR customer. And so that shows you how to create an email and send it using Extender. And the last one I'm going to show you is the ability to store optional fields for AR items and store values for those optional fields for AR items. So then when you come to enter an AR invoice, the appropriate optional fields will default down onto the item without you having to key them in each time for each invoice. So just first I'll demonstrate those and then go into the configuration of how to set them up. So just flicking across into Sage and opening up my order entry and just pulling up the first order, which is for customer 1200. You can see my notes panel has, or my alert box, my information manager alert box is opened up. The first note that is being shown is actually a script which was maintained, a note which was created and maintained by Extender. So each time the credit limit is changed, Extender maintains this particular note. So the credit limit was last changed from 50,000 to 30,000 on the 2018. So I was ahead of myself. So that is an example of a configured, from the configurator, the ability to maintain an information manager note. But the second script that I want to demonstrate here is showing us the total sales of 19,884. So when the customer number was filled in on the screen, Extender wrote a script, ran a script to do a SQL query to sum up the total of those total sales to this customer, and has displayed it in that particular box. And the third one I want to show you here is this one sitting here, where the quantity sold is showing for this particular item. So customer 1200, item A11030, we've sold 85 to date. $7,214 with an average cost of $85. And as I click through the items, you'll notice we haven't sold any for A11050. We sold 60 and of 400 and 30 of 450. And stepping through the particular invoices, orders. This is 1210, so total sales 8960, and of that particular item. But when I step onto the next order, which has a invoice number already generated, you'll see a new, well, a couple of new boxes come to be shown. The new one where by clicking on this button, it will create this PDF. So using a parameter of the, well, a table to say which invoice format do we want to print, it would PDF, call the Sage 300 report object and save it away into the document management link folder. This box here is document management link showing us the invoice that has been associated by invoice number. And the third button, the second button is to email. So if I was to click email, it is, this is just a message showing me that it's picking up the right file, it's picking up that PDF and going to the customer's email delivery method, checking to see whether it's contact or customer and sending the email. And here we've got this email being sent through, which is attached the PDF of the invoice and has used the email template defined in Extender and filled in the values as appropriate. So just let's have a look at the setup around that. So first, let's just open up the order screen again. So first, I'll show you the setup and the script that's needed to do our customer sales. The second one we'll look at is the script and setup required to show us the customer item sales. And then we'll go and have a look at the script that's required for the print and the emailing of the invoice. So these three scripts are using Information Manager notes. So really what we do is configure a note to show around the customer number and/or customer number and item number, but we tell it the note type is an Extender script. So the setup for Information Manager notes is in Information Manager Setup, Options, and on the Notes Document Link Hotkey tab. These are the three Extender scripts that were active. Let's first look at this one here, which is the total customer sales. So what this is saying is on the screen OE1100, when the field label customer no full stop, when it gets a value, then run the script. And the script to run is this one. This is the module name, Orchid OE Notes Customer, and the script it's called is Display Customer Sales. And it shows it in the alert box, and that is the heading. So if we go across to the script screen, I'll just open up the script. I'm not going to go through it all in detail, but just highlight the main options as they happen. So if I go to my Extender setup, first to import these scripts, I would have downloaded the module from the Orchid website, and I would have come into the module screen and gone import. And these ones that I'm looking at is this one here, the customer sales and the customer item sales. So they've been released as two separate modules. When you import the module, it will import any scripts that it needs, which may be screens, or import the table definition, or import the email template definition, and attach any scripts to views, whatever the Extender script does. So just looking at that script via the script screen, and if I go to the customer sales and go to edit that, and what I should have shown you just before I edited is, no, not to worry, I'll just go into the notes again. So this script, our choice was to, rather than read all the individual invoices and add them up, is that we would use the CS1200 view, which allows you to execute a SQL script. And the SQL script that's being executed is to select the amount of sales less the sales returns from the OE-SHDT, which is sales history summary. So we're already using summarized data to keep the script running quickly. and we are filtering it where the customer equals the customer ID, and that has been passed through from the note setup because it was attached to customer number. That parameter is being passed through. Basically, it executes that query and then builds up the text of the note to say it's the body of the note, which says net sales, and then it formats that net sales amount. The second script for the customer item sales is very similar, except this time it is bringing back a few more parameters from the SQL query, and it's filtering by customer and item. So again, it is using the CS120 view, and it selects, it's selecting the sum of the quantity sold. It's selecting the amount of sales, let the return of sales, and then also to get the average price, it is dividing the sales less returns divided by the quantity sold. And this time the filter is where customer equals the customer ID and item equals the item ID. Sorry, I forgot to show you the configuration where we were using two fields this time. So I'll go back to that. But here we were showing that, and from the SQL query, we strip out the quantity sold, the net sales, and the average price, format it, and add it to that little grid that was showing the quantity sold and the average price. So just going back to Information Manager Setup options. On the Notes Doc Link hotkey, this was the one for the customer number and, no, sorry. Here we go. This is the one for the, to show an extender script around order entry OE1100 using the customer number and the active item number miscellaneous charge, because that's what's the heading of the item number in the grid. And this time it runs the customer item sales PY and displays it in a box, in the alert box with the customer item sales. So you should be able to see from that you could associate any common query that can run through the Common Services CS120 to show any data around any Sage 300 screen from within Sage 300. Or indeed, that query could go to any accessible SQL database and just extract some data and show that information. Or if you wanted, call a web service and get an exchange rate. It could be showing any data from anywhere, where accessible, and show it in the note. But the third box that I showed you, which was the purple one, which had the two buttons enabled, and this time it was attached again to the OE1100 order entry screen using the customer number and this time the last invoice number. So if you wanted it on the invoice screen, the OE invoice screen, it's not called last invoice number, it's just called invoice no, so you would just amend that field label. And this time it's running this particular module and script, the auto file and email the OE invoice. So looking at that script, so again, going back to our scripts and having a look at the auto file one. So this script is a bit longer, but I just want to highlight the main things for you. And what I forgot, also neglected to tell you, was the script is reading some configuration, the report name and the path from a configuration table. So in the if I was to actually run that particular table and show you how we enter some data, and show you what our configuration set to being. So that particular module's table is this one here, and the record key number 1 is saying that the report name that we're using is the OE INV04 standard template. The folder for document management link, where the invoices are to be stored when they're printed in PDF, is stored in this folder with value being the customer number. So it will dynamically replace the customer number into the folder. as same as Document Management Link does. And this is the email template to send when you're emailing the customer the invoice. So what you're able to do is define your email templates in Extender, and then you can use those so you don't have to hard code the full email. So that's the body of the email. We can include any variables from the views that we know are open when this is running, and then all you need to do is replace the variable names. So the users can change this text as they want, as long as they use the variable names that you're going to be replacing. So that is why the email looked the way it did with the replacement of these particular fields. So if I just flick back to the email, you'll see Dear Mr. Stephen Kearnshaw. So that was replaced through, and I'll show you where that happens. And please find a copy of the invoice, and the invoice number was replaced, as was the body, the subject of the email was constructed using the company name and the invoice number. So just looking back at the script again, if we open this one out, you can see the first thing that it does is goes to read the configuration to pick up the report directory and the email template and so on. Then it reads the customer view to get the customer name. But here's the button to do the emailing. So here it's building, extracting from the parameters where the directory is and what the invoice number is, so what the file will be called to do the emailing, and then calls the function email print, which is down here, which creates an email object. First gets the message ID, creates an email object, and replaces the known variables that you're going to be using with the data, and then goes to see what the delivery method of the customer is and sends the email. Oh, sorry, here's the replacement down here, replacing the invoice number and the customer number and so on. So these are the variables that you know could be in the invoice, in the email template, and those are being replaced in the subject and or body. The second button was the ability to run that OEINV4 report. So it gets the report name from the table and then calls the Sage 300 report object just by calling print none. So you've probably seen similar code to this in your VB macros calling a report object. So those were the three scripts that I've showed you around the order entry screen. Just going back to my PowerPoint so I know what I'm talking about next. Okay, so next we're going to be looking at when I create a new sales order. It's going to email the customer an email, send them an email saying the new sales order has been created, and it is taking the email address from an optional field on the AR customer. So back in order entry, if I go ahead and create a new order for customer 1200, and you can see our scripts and totals adding up there. Just enter a quantity and post, and I'm probably over the credit limit. So after posting the order, or as it's creating, it's sending the email. And if I flick into my email, I should get this email being sent, a new order, and that was the body of that particular email. So we didn't design this one for an attachment, but that was the body of the email template that was sent through. In this particular case, this script is not attached via a note, but is attached on the actual order entry view. So whether I imported that order or edited like I did here, or if it came in from a website or came across from CRM, that action would still take place. And the way that happens is if you attach a script around the view. So in the setup, around the view events and scripts, around the order view, the script had actually been attached at this level. So on OE orders, which is OE 0520, a script has been attached to this, which was this Orchid email order email sample. So when the module was imported, it would have created the script and attached it to the OE 520 view. And this is an example where we use parameters. So rather than tables to store our parameters, here in the parameter 1 and parameter 2, we've actually used the template ID of the email that gets sent as parameter 1, and then the optional field name on the AR customer, which is orc email, for the actual email address. And opening up this particular script, the first thing it does is, it checks to see that it's running on the right view and running on the right screen. Otherwise, it's not going to work. It also has got an example saying only do this if the user is admin. So your scripts can be conditional on the users. I was admin, so that's why the email was being sent. It gets the parameters, reads the AR optional field view, and gets the optional field called orc email. So that's how it knows what email address to do. And after inserting the order records, so on after insert, it builds the email, replaces any values that it needs to, and sends the email off. And you could have a message or not have a message to say if the email was sent successfully. At the moment, we've got it commented out, but you could actually, send the email, have a message saying email sent. So that is the OE scripts that I was intending to demonstrate. And the last one I'm going to go through is this one here, the defaulting of an AR invoice. So this module has two components. Three components. One is a table to store the AR item and the AR optional fields. It has a screen which allows you to edit those information in, and then a script which is attached to the AR invoice detail and does the defaulting. So let's go ahead and have a look at that. So first of all, the screen for the when you import the module, it would again you'd import it through the module screens. The scripts would be visible in the script screen. But when you have any scripts which are screens or forms, you can right-hand mouse button. So for example, I can right-hand mouse button and add this to the desktop. And I've actually said, put this particular one in my AR setup. So the AR optional fields item is in the AR setup. So when I go to, and we're adding it that way, it adds it to the group file. So it's available for all users. It doesn't need to be added user by user to their particular profiles. So in the AR setup, I've got my new AR item optional fields. And if I click on the Finder, you can see the records I've set up previously. So 2 optional fields for BK360, 2 optional fields for CA59, and 2 optional fields for CA78. So I could have as many optional fields as I wanted, associated with the AR items, and all of those will default down. So just having a look at one of the records here, we're saying the BK360, the color optional field is red, and the BK360, the size optional field is 15. So when I go to my AR transactions and go and add an AR optional field, so here's some rows that I've added previously, but let's say I insert a new row and I'll add the BK360. And let's just go to the optional fields. You can see it's defaulted this a color value to red and the size to 15 centimeters, which, if I added a different optional field, a different item, so maybe the second one down, and its optional fields are now sitting as green and medium. And the script that did that has been attached to the AR invoice detail. So if we go ahead and let's just save this, go ahead and look at the script that's been attached to the AR item. So going across to our setup, view events and scripts. The view that's been attached, the script that's been attached to the invoice details, AR33. The script is the Orchid autofill optional fields AR invoice detail. And opening that up, you can see what the script is doing is reading the, what is it doing? You can see in your scripts you can add RV spy traces. So if you do want to inject your code into the RV spy, you can. So what this one's doing is when they're adding a on after put, so if they fill in a field into the ID item field, then go and call this function autofill optional fields, which is this function here. And the first thing it does is it reads the module view or table to go and see if there's any optional fields set up for the item that's just been added. So while VR item fetch, so while you get records in this particular filtering by the AR item equal to the item that they entered, while you get those records, then read the optional field value. Read the optional field value and the optional field name and insert it into the AR item O, which is the invoice, AR IBDO, which is the invoice optional field item. And that's why those fields, would default down with that particular optional field. So here we're working with optional fields, but we could be defaulting anything, either just hard-coded, conditionally defaulted, or defaulted based on the value of a table, which we've just seen. So I've walked through the scripts that I wanted to walk through. I haven't been looking at the question box. Apologies, but I'll go there now and see if you have any questions that I need to answer.
We have seen the 4 scripts running around the order entry screen. One to show the total customer sales, the second one to show the customer item sales, quantity, price, and calculated average price. The third one prints and PDFs the invoice and emails the invoice to the customer using the customer's delivery method. And the fourth one sends an email to the customer when the order is created. We also saw the scripts required to create a table, to store the AR item optional fields, and then the script required to be applied to the invoice detail, that when the item is added to the invoice with a configured optional field, then the values are defaulted down. Thanks very much for attending this session. The scripts are up on the website, so log into the website and go to the custom scripts page and have a look for those particular scripts.